So, Selena, tell us about what you do. What is your journey to regeneration, and how has that evolved for you and for our family?
Okay, so we are the parents of 9 children. When Jared and I got married, we kind of hit some roadblocks. Jared's family has been ranchers in Nevada. He's the third generation, and I'm also a third generation rancher, and so we are raising the fourth generation. But we were, I was pretty young getting married and hadn't learned a lot about mental health. And so it wasn't really talked about in those days. After we got married, I was dealing with depression and didn't realize it. And fortunately, my aunt recognized what was happening. She had dealt with it herself. And so she reached out and kind of explained what she saw and how that affects everything. And there's still not very much known about it. There was counseling options, medication options. We were starting our family and having children and didn't want to go down the medication route. So I started looking for answers. I tried a few different things as far as natural supplements and so forth and found some help there. But it wasn't until our third son ended up in the hospital due to an accident, and he was nursing at the time. And after we got home, he ended up with thrush, and I ended up with thrush, and I wasn't willing to give up nursing. I was in a lot of pain, so I was looking for answers. And so my midwife explained to me about yeast infections, candida, all that stuff I'd never heard about, and that it fed off of sugars. And she said, you need to cut out all sugars, including, fruits, natural sugars, everything, to kill the candida, kind of starve it out. And so it started me on a journey. That was really challenging. The first 30 days were really challenging. But then things started to turn around. I started to feel better. My mental health increased, and my mood swings leveled out, and quality of life was better. So I started to continue to research and learn about gut health, and we realized not only the detriment of sugars, but also the quality of our food, the inputs, glyphosate, how that was affecting our microbiology. And we decided that we were raising a product that we didn't have control over what was happening to after it left our ranch. And so we were feeding into a system that we didn't believe in anymore. And we were looking for answers for ourselves, and we wanted to be able to provide those answers for other families as well. So we started, looking more to raising grass-fed beef and direct marketing that, as well as just changing the way that we were grazing and how we were taking care of our land. So it's a big shift for us, and that kind of started us on our journey.
Yeah, that's good. So along that journey, we've learned a lot. We've hit walls and come up against some challenges, as Selena mentioned, health challenges, financial challenges, the normal challenges that we in agriculture face, as far as labor, having enough help at the right times. One of the current things that we're working on right now, ecologically and soil health. And so this journey has been kind of looking, from the standpoint of where we were when we started on this journey, when we got married 27 years ago. It probably didn't make a lot of sense. And as Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots into the future. You can only connect them in the past. And so now as we look back and we are connecting those dots, it's starting to make more sense why we needed to go down this unique journey and what's gotten us to this point. And so I appreciate that Selena is able to be on and to share, and certainly has been a great support to me, to our family, and yeah, being the mother of 9 children. And yes, she did give birth to all of them. They're not adopted. We claim them all. We're grateful for them. The age spread of our children are 6 to 26, right? That something like that. And And so it's been an amazing, really an amazing journey. I'm just going to share my screen here and we're going to jump in and show some pictures. But yeah, so this is our family taken last summer. We now have one more grandchild on the ground and one more coming in just a couple months here. So third generation rancher. We operate a ranch in northeastern Nevada. So Elko is the nearest big town. We're kind of the northeast corner. We're not in the desert, as you can tell from the backdrop in this picture. You know, this is the landscape that we get to look at and operate in every day. Our journey started with, well, taking over management of the ranch at a very young age when my mom and dad left to serve a series of missions. When we were 23, our oldest son, right here, Justin, who's now married, he was just a baby, and I was 23. My wife was just barely 20 years old and new parents. And my mom and dad said, hey, do you guys want to manage the ranch so we can go and serve a mission? Well, we said, sure, yeah, we'd love to. We want to. That's all we wanted to do. And really, we came back to the ranch in lieu of pursuing our university education, and then found out why. So, you know, part of that was so they could go and serve missions. Well, that one mission turned into another assignment and another assignment, and for the next 12 or 15 years, they were gone more than they were home. And so there was a lot of things that I knew about the tactical aspects of running the ranch. Selena had grown up on a ranch as well. We could manage the cattle. But when it came to the business side and leadership and even the skills of having the mindset of a business owner, man, we did not know it. We didn't know anything. And we soon found out just how much we didn't know as we came kind of head to head with the realities of running a multi-generational, multi-million dollar, thousands of acres, pretty vast operation. And so we started to look for education, and on that journey, we attended the Ranching for Profit school, and that kind of opened my mind that, you know, this whole regenerative movement, before it was even called that, was available, and started to change our grazing system and started to track our numbers a little bit better and network with people who were forward thinking and positive thinking rather than blaming, and people that were looking for solutions rather than just talking about all the reasons why things wouldn't work. I was blessed to meet and go to both Bud Williams stockmanship and marketing schools and learn from him. And at one point, he actually in 2007 came and visited the ranch here and spent some time with us when our family was very young. He was doing a seminar, a class in the area, and we asked him to stop by, and he did. And he was gracious enough to spend that day with us, and was able to, I think, at least once attend one of the Bud summits when Bud was still alive, and then started to learn about leadership and take seminars and classes that seemed unrelated to agriculture. But yet there was kind of this drive that I felt inside of me, like, okay, I need to learn these things. And that led to also working with Nicole Masters and finding out that not only were we cow managers or livestock managers above the ground, but we'd learned that we were grass farmers, and then really we're actually microbe farmers, that beneath this soil, this whole life existed that I didn't even realize existed, and that we needed to begin to enhance the life in the soil. And so that was kind of our next step in the progression. And I was inspired to write a book, and I did. And anyway, I don't know that you can see the title of it, but it's called Searching for Home and Finding Grace. And it's a novel that fictionally portrays a lot of the stories and experiences that have happened here on the ranch. It's set in a ranch setting, and it's condensed many of the experiences that we've had over decades and condensed into a few hundred pages, nearly 300 pages. And so that book was a labor of love that helped me to be able to express my desire to help that and mentor and coach that next generation. We are certified regenerative with the Land of Market program. And it's not so much about the certification as it is about monitoring, measuring, and looking for what is working. And as Roger talked about, and as Tony will talk about, being able to identify quickly where we're on track and where we're off track. And then in 2020, early 2023, late 2022, we started a company called AgSteward. And that's why all of you are here today, and that's why we're here today. We kicked it off with a virtual summit in January of 2023, and it was neat to see how much interest there was in profitable regeneration and building legacy businesses. And we've dialed in like who it is that we work with in AgSteward, who our people are. And I think all of you are here because you felt like, okay, there's a need here, there's a community here, there's a cause here that I can get behind. And we appreciate that, and we're humbled by that. We do podcasts and virtual summits and webinars, and so we encourage you to check that out and stay connected with the community. So the podcast is the Profitable Steward Podcast. It's on different platforms. And then we're also on YouTube. And so at the end, we'll share what those ways are to be able to get connected with us. I've been fascinated by change. And we know ecologically that nature can take sometimes centuries to be able to build inches of topsoil. But with our practices and changing up our practices, we can actually get that done a lot quicker by implementing true and correct principles. Like we can build topsoil in decades instead of centuries, and sometimes years instead of decades. And I don't think we know the limit of how quickly we can regenerate the earth, but I think we need to find out. I think we need to push the envelope and really stretch and see, okay, how quickly, because as has been pointed out by the previous presentations, that desertification is something real. And if we're going to feed an ever-growing population, we need to be able to implement these principles that seem to be new, but actually are true, and we're just kind of more getting back to our roots. On this journey of learning, we're going to bring it back to a personal side, because we need to look first at who we are and separate who we are from what we do. And so for years, I saw that my identity was a rancher or a cowboy or a cowman, or even a father or even a husband. But sometimes those things could go away. Maybe we could lose the ranch for whatever reason, and our identity goes away. Our sense of being, our sense of belonging, our sense of purpose can be lost because that thing that we held on to so dearly is for whatever reason, be it our own choices or things outside of our influence, those have been stripped away. And I suffered from that. Like, I was a rancher and I wore that title proudly. And then there came a time when it looked like financially we were not going to be able to make it work. And I walked to the mailbox and pulled a foreclosure letter out of the mailbox. And as I walked back to the house, I was in that moment of, okay, I had faced something that was triggering and I had a choice. Would I go and take out my frustrations on my family, who were innocent, not knowing what happened? Sure, they knew there was financial stress and things like that, but they didn't know. It was a surprise to me. I mean, it shouldn't have been, but I didn't get a call. I didn't get forewarning. It was a form letter in the mail. Fortunately, I chose a higher path, and I chose to, rather than react to that trigger, that piece of information that was affecting my perceived self-worth, which my self-worth was highly tied to my net worth. And as my net worth went down, my self-worth went down. I chose to look at it as just a simple piece of information. And I, as I recall, went and told my wife, hey, look at what we got in the mail. And it's like, okay, now what do we do? So as we look at our identity, I encourage you and invite you to embrace the identity of being a steward, of stewardship, which is greater than just that of being a rancher or a land manager, a steward. Because I believe that stewardship is not contingent upon ownership or how much land or how many cattle we own or even how many children we have. Stewardship is something that is a choice. And when we choose to embrace that identity, then that is what makes us resilient. That is what helps us when the storms of and the winds blow and things try to knock us down. Like we are grounded because it's on an eternal principle, not on something that is earthly or momentary, something that can be taken from us. And so when we look at this identity, the world sees what's above the surface up here. And if you can see my cursor, so we all know that this is the iceberg, right? The world judges us by what is above the surface, by what it can see, by maybe how much land we have or cars we drive or whatever. But really what stewardship is all of this that is unseen, that is beneath the surface. And when we embrace that, that is where real change is going to happen. And so we're going to talk about that. And much of what we talk about in this class today is going to be more on the above ground, the principles and practices of regeneration. And I choose that whenever I look at a challenge that I face or somebody that we coach faces in our company, that I'm always looking at what's beneath the surface. What is the root cause? And that's why I like the framework that Roger laid out, is because we are getting to the root cause of the issues. This is my favorite definition of stewardship. It's not unique to me. And this is: stewardship designates a sacred, spiritual, or temporal responsibility to care for something that belongs to God, for which we are accountable. So I believe we will be held accountable for those things that we choose to be stewards over. Sometimes those things are given to us, but no matter from whence the stewardship comes, we will one day be held accountable. And so there's certain principles here. And so I'm not able to monitor the chats. Lena or Margot, if you're able to, and if you want to interject and unmute if there are, because I'm in screen share mode. And if there are questions or things that are pertinent, please go ahead and unmute and feel free to interject. So stewardship principles. There's probably more than 4 of them, but they're really easy to memorize. The first one has to do with everyone is a steward. We've had homeless people come and work for us before, and they are stewards. When I took over management over several thousand acres and head of cattle and employees that were twice and one even 3 times my age, I was a steward. Everyone is a steward. Principle number 2 is it's not so much about how much we steward, but it's how we steward. And so the way that I remember that is just that H2, not H2O, but H2. How we steward is the key principle. Number 3, and again, you guys can write these in the chat just as a way to be able to ingrain it. Stewardship is greater than ownership. Stewardship is greater than ownership, because I believe that you can be a steward and not be an owner. Ideally, you're an owner. Well, not necessarily ideally, but if you are an owner, you are a steward. But that's not necessarily true, right? So stewardship is greater than ownership in the sense that we may not, especially on these vast BLM acreages and Forest Service acres here, we don't have fee title to the land, but yet we're stewards of that land. Some of the land that we lease, we don't have title to, but yet we are stewards of that land. And so that's why I say that. Not that ownership isn't important, not that ownership isn't a key principle. And I have studied John Locke and the founders of our nation of the United States, and I know that ownership is key and integral part of the rights of life, liberty, and property. And so I'm not demeaning that in any way, but I'm saying that just because you have ownership does not mean that you're a steward. And then principle number 4 is increased capacity. As we increase our capacity, we will necessarily increase our stewardships. So that equal sign means that both sides are in balance, capacity and stewardship. And we're going to illustrate that in just a moment here. So here's what I call the stewardship balance, guys. And this is a principle that I feel was given to me to be able to illustrate kind of this principle. So we have the steward on the left-hand side, we have the stewardships on the right-hand side. Let's just say that I get this question a lot. I'm sure a lot of the presenters on here do as well. They're like, I want to be a rancher. And so my first question is, I always start with why. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do that? But most people, or a lot of people would say, well, if you're going to be a rancher, you got to go get this cow. And then if you're going to have a cow, well, then you're going to have some land and some infrastructure, and you're probably going to have some money to be able to buy that cow and either lease or buy. And we could talk about whether it's better to own land or lease land. And so we're going to focus more on, okay, if you were going to be a farmer or a rancher, you need to get these things. And that's true. But if along the way we don't focus on the other side of the scale and we don't grow the steward in the same process, what happens? Things are not in balance. And there is law at play here that says, and I've experienced it firsthand from my own journey of stewardship, of starting out at a young age when I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know that I needed to build the steward. I was focused on the right side of the scale. And so some of those things that I was stewarding were pulled off or fell off so that they could be brought back into balance. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this or not, but for me firsthand, and I've also seen it in others. And so when I see people that are struggling, when I see people that are going through challenges, maybe they're losing some of their stewardships for whatever reason, rather than focusing first and foremost on, okay, well, let's figure out, cash flow budgets and soil fertility and a herd health plan, and let's go get you the capital that you need. What we tend to focus on at AgSteward is let's focus on this side because we have more control over that. Let's build the steward. And in so doing, we can bring things back into balance. So that begs the question, right, of how do we grow the steward? What are the principles that it takes to be able to do that? And so one of those things is what you're doing right here today. Education is super important. We do that by being in places and in groups of people where we're going to find out where our weaknesses are. We're going to find out the skill set that we need to have to become a steward over these stewardships. And that's the whole purpose of what we're doing here at AgSteward. Like, we are building the steward. When we say we build stewards, that's what I mean, right? There are a lot of ways to be able to manage land, livestock, and finances. I believe there's certain ways that are better than others, but there are people that are highly successful that are even in degenerative models that in some measurements they are successful. And so while we focus on the practices, we also focus on the principles. So we grow ourselves through education, surrounding ourselves by good people, around good people. It says that we become the sum of our 5 closest friends. So if you don't have good friends, well, heck, you can rent them. You can come hang out with us. Let us be your friends. Let us challenge each other. Let us grow together. And that's the power of mastermind groups and groups like this, is because we can rub shoulders with individuals who are like-minded and have common, good, godly, worthwhile goals and causes. And we can help each other in the process. So the second way is to be able to move the fulcrum. And how do we move the fulcrum? Right? We're going to, again, through one of the best ways that I like to be able to move that fulcrum is through business. To be able to leverage what we do at a higher scale. So we grow the steward, and through business or mission or cause, something where we can take these products that we produce and be able to market it to the masses, that business, that is a way to move that fulcrum and leverage. Right? A business is just a reflection of who we are, though. When somebody's going through financial challenges, ecological challenges, again, I'm going to look back at the steward because those are just symptoms of something that's underlying. And another way to do that is to build a team. But why don't we do all of them? In Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy's book of Who Not How, they beg the question, they ask the question. In my terms, if a person wants to increase their stewardships, the first question you ask is not how to do this, it's who can help me? Who can I put on that other side of the team to help bring things into balance, on that other side of the balance beam? Okay, so is this making sense, you guys? Like, what are you taking away? Go ahead and share some insights in the chat of what you see, what you can do from this stewardship balance perspective. Because this is the essence of, I believe, of an eternal principle that if we don't get it, we get to repeat it. Like life has a sense of allowing us the opportunity to continue to repeat lessons until we get them. A wise person, an intelligent person learns from books and from, life's lessons and from experience. That's intelligence. Wisdom is learning from the experiences of others. And so that's why we invited you here to join with us today, is to be able to gain experience from the mistakes, from the challenges that maybe other people have faced and surpassed, and what we've learned along the way. So as we're going to open this up to just a little bit of discussion here, and I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to stop share here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So what are we getting from this? Ask who can help you. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. That is making sense. I'm glad to hear that. Find mentors. Very good. Yes. Along the way that on my journey, we were able to find people who had the skills that we lacked. And so that's been one of my principles and kind of my go-tos along the way, is to look for individuals who have the skills that I am lacking. So when it comes to stockmanship, I realized the best of the best was Bud Williams, and he was alive at the time, and went and learned from him. When it came to livestock marketing, I learned from him. When it came to ecology and soil health, I was blessed to be able to learn from Nicole Masters and others. And now we have people that are on site who have those skills and those abilities. And we've been able to build the who's that we need, the team that we need to better steward the stewardships that we have along the way. So, yeah, this is good. If you don't know how to do something, grow your network, reach out to someone who does know and is great at what they do. Very good. Yep. And always be asking that question, who? The tendency is when we come up against something that we don't know, we ask how. But first ask who. And then together you'll figure out a better how. Very good. So those key principles are timeless. And let's see here. We're going to go ahead and share screen again. Nope, that's not it. Okay, you'd think, like, I've done this multiple times here, but each time I get to relearn. There we go. Okay. Very good. So an opportunity that you have to be able to increase your capacity as a steward is a program that we've put together, and it is called The Profitable Steward. And it's a 2-day, it's a virtual event. It's set up very much like this, but we're really targeting in on people who are looking at taking the next step to building a regenerative business. And so, Margot, if you want to just drop in the chat the landing page for that, and then I'm going to try to open that up here, so we can kind of walk through what we're going to talk about, who it's for. There we are. So this is kind of to walk through and get you guys familiar with what the next step could be for you. And again, this is not for everybody. This class is for individuals who are really ready to build the foundation for a legacy business. Like if you're, I guess I would say, yeah, we would love to have you join us. You know, if you're just a regen ag enthusiast, if you're an activist, if you're just here, homesteaders, we love you. There's certainly principles that you can learn. But who we targeted this class for is for multi-generation farms and ranches who are really committed to building a legacy business that outlasts them. That said, if you are a startup and you want to join, that it could be a good fit. We had some last time, and it was awesome to see the experiences that they had in starting out and building a foundation. Because kind of going back to the beginning, when I started out at 23 years old and quickly found out all the things that I didn't know, this is the class that I needed. These are the principles that I needed. I didn't have necessarily a network. They were probably there, but I didn't know enough to ask the questions when I was around good forward thinking people. Like my mindset wasn't there. And so I've thought, you know, what did I need? And again, connecting the dots in the past and looking down the road that I've been down, I've been able to say, okay, here's the principles that I've learned along the way. How can I condense those principles that I've learned over decades and really condense them into days? Education does not replace experience. Like I had a horsemanship mentor that taught me that I can't teach you experience. You're still going to have to go through a bit of the school of hard knocks. But boy, if I had learned some of these principles, if I'd known some of these principles and I had the resources back then, what a difference that would have made in building me as the steward. And that's the focus of it. So we're really looking at transforming your farm or ranch and making it into a legacy business. This is a hands-on workshop, whereas in the summit, this is more high level. This is more principle based. This is educational. On the 2-day class, this is going to be hands-on. This is where you will be looking at your business, either the one that you currently have or the one that you're creating, and ideally you're doing it with a team. And so our mission is to inspire and empower you to becoming an effective steward over your land and create a lasting profit that outlasts you, create a legacy that will outlast you. And what we do at AgSteward, like we really look 7 generations down the road. What are our decisions today? How are they going to affect our great, however many greats, grandchildren? We have that 7 generational view. And so how are we going to do that? This is kind of the format. We work on the mindset first. Remember, we build the steward and we balance that mindset with the skill set that you're needed. Like Stephen Covey said, you can have a great mindset, but if you have the wrong roadmap, you'll just be happy running in circles. And we don't want that for you. Like we know that marriage of mindset and skill set is super important. We tend to lean more on the mindset piece because there is so much out there. As Jim mentioned in his talk, you can YouTube anything. You can become a good grazer if you go make the mistakes and you watch some of these things on YouTube. But building the mindset, it starts there, and the skill set will necessarily follow. We're going to give you the framework, largely using the framework outlined by the Savory Institute for an economic model which makes sense, which works, which measures key areas of profitability, looking at gross margins on your enterprises. If you don't know what an enterprise is, you're going to find that out. Basically, on our ranch, our key enterprise right now is custom grazing. That brings in the most gross income. We also have a hunting enterprise. We have a grass-fed beef enterprise. And then we also kind of two different classes of custom grazing, yearlings and cow-calf pairs. And then we also have a sell by marketing enterprises. So those are the main enterprises that we have. Those are the profit centers for our business right now. Amy Walker is actually going to be joining us. She is a certified exit planning strategist. She's the one that runs the behind the scenes in our company. And we're going to talk about the difference of working on and in your business using the E-Myth principle. Like, it's funner to work in the business. There's a lot of days when I sit down and have to do the work. It's just like my body and my mind are telling me, I just go irrigate. We can put that off. But you know what? We can't do the fun things if we don't do the other things. And so we're going to find what that balance is between working on and working in the business. And we're going to help you to be able to identify who the key people are that you need to be able to provide the support that you need so that you can continue to do the things that you want to do. Like, I don't know many ranchers who started ranching because they just love crunching the numbers. I know some of them are, and some of them are super good at it, but that's not why I did it. And so we're going to help you to be able to, if that is not your strength, to plug you into the people who are. We'll also help you build the right team to learn those leadership skills that I had to learn the hard way. We're going to balance the cash flow versus net worth and discover why cash flow is really crucial, right? Net worth is going to fluctuate based on somebody else's opinion. And really, your net worth isn't defined until the day you sell out, right? At that point, any time before that, it could be blue sky or it could be lowballed. Likely your asking price is going to be a lot of blue sky and the bank is going to lowball it. It's somewhere in the middle of there. But cash flow is what's going to matter, right? As long as net worth can go up and down, and yeah, your banker may be worried if all of a sudden those $2,000 yearlings in the market drops and they're only worth $1,200, you might be getting a phone call. But as long as you can make your payments, he's probably not going to foreclose. We're going to look at how we balance profitability and production. In agriculture, we are highly productive, but oftentimes the profitability is lagging, right? And we learned from Jim why that is. Like, the cards are kind of stacked against us, you guys. And not to take the victim role here, but there are people who are profitable. Some of them are direct marketing. Some of them are low-cost producers. Some of them are a balance of both. But you've got to do things different than the status quo if you're still going to be in business. We're going to identify and help you identify what the strengths and weaknesses are in the business. And to kind of bring it full circle, we'll focus on growth through stewardship. Focusing on that left side of the balance. Focusing on who we are as stewards so that we can then improve our stewardships. So really, who is this class for? Why would you attend this? Why would you spend another 2 days in front of a computer? Well, it's for you if you're ready to take your business to the next level, to provide the framework to have a six-figure business, or if you're already there, to scale that and 10x what you're currently doing. And you're like, well, how do we 10x that? It's by doing things differently. Like, we've seen multiple X increase in our production costs. Our overhead expenses increased by 30% last year. So necessarily, we've got to change this year, or the writing's on the wall that we won't be in business, right? And we're facing that. I want you to know that we do not have all the answers. But I believe that because of the journey we've been on and because of the network that we've been blessed to create, we can tap into those answers. Like, I am not your go-to enterprise budget guy or your soil health guy or even your stockmanship guy. But if those are the weak links, we can plug you into the people who have those strengths. And so kind of what are, oh yeah, there's the dates. what our expertise is more, rather than being the finished carpenter, we're more the general contractor. Like we're going to plug you into the help that you need, whether that's high-level CEO work, whether that is somebody to help you with soil fertility, with stockmanship, with livestock production. And I know enough of each of those that I can help you identify, okay, here's where the weak links are. Here's what here's the help that you might need, and here's how we plug into that. So pretty cool event. We had some awesome and amazing experiences. I'll see if I can share a testimonial here, but the dates are the 14th and 15th. Approximate times are 10 to 4 Pacific time. And again, this is very tailored to your unique business. So yes, we will be offering this again, but I encourage you to sign up now. Go ahead, jump on the landing page and go there. If this is calling to you, like if you were like, I don't know, it's another 2 days. The money should not be a barrier here, you guys. The money is there just to help you to show up. But this is about you. And then from there, we look, is it a good fit to continue to work with us one-on-one? And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like later, kind of at the end of the summit today, to work with us one-on-one at AgSteward. But this is a good way to get to know us, to get to know what we do, to build the steward, to improve your stewardships, to build a legacy business, to fill the mission that God gave you to fulfill. And that's part of what we're doing. Like this is our mission at AgSteward, is to build stewards. Additional information in there. Does it work on a large or small scale? Yes. We encourage you to bring your spouse, key family members that are team players. This link that you register for, that is for your business. If you want to share it with a manager, if you want to share it with a key employee, you're able to do that. Prepare for the event by, number one, setting aside the time on your calendar. Yes, you do need to be at your computer the whole time. And so that's the event. And this is a friend of ours who gave this testimonial, and I appreciated him doing this. I can't see it in that format. Wait a minute. Okay, I think it says I just finished attending the Profitable Steward, Sustainable Ranching for the Next Generation program organized by Jared Sorensen and AgSteward. Wow. 2 information-packed days designed to help me build a solid foundation for my personal and ranching activities. Jared is one of the best facilitator presenters I have ever listened to. His holistic and Christian-based approach to being an ag steward and ag stewardship was inspiring and uplifting. If you ever have the opportunity to listen to or interact with Jared, don't pass it up. And thank you, Ed Mason from Canada, for sharing that testimonial.
So we have a question asking if you are the presenter, if there's other guest teachers and who they are.
Yeah, so on this one, I will be the primary presenter. Amy Walker is going to be joining me. And then occasionally, we did have one other presenter who was a relationship expert because relationships are so key within businesses. I invited him on, and likely we'll have somebody like that again. Any other questions that we have? Who do we pay the $47 to? If you just click on the link, it will go through. There's a secure pay window, and it comes through to AgSteward. So it's all automated there. And very good. Okay, so in this time that we have left, I wanted to just look through here. We're going to do something just a little bit different. I want to get maybe some one-on-one feedback. We have about 10 minutes before we bring our next presenter up, 12 minutes to bring our next presenter up. Was there something that maybe you either had a question about or an insight from? Anybody who would be willing to just raise their virtual hand? We're going to ideally, yeah, we will unmute you. And we'll ask you if you would be willing to jump on and share what your insight was with the group. Because remember, when we share, we get to learn twice. That's something part of what we do here. So insight, question, an epiphany, or just a specific challenge that you might be facing with either your business or even in a key relationship.
Jared?
Yes.
So one of the insights that I didn't mention in my talk, but I picked up on the other two talks, as we probably need to mention it, is just the simple insight that cows don't eat grass.
Explain that, Roger.
So cows harvest forage. And they then farm that forage through a group of microorganisms. And then if you look in the stomach, all the tripe, it's all those fine filaments. Those filaments are kind of like a coral reef. And those fine filaments in the coral reef are going through the water in the gut and pulling out the microorganisms that they have farmed. Now, by farming these microorganisms, they have to have 5% lignin to move the matter through the four intestines. The best source of lignin is grass. So we need the 5% of the diet to be grass for the lignin to move through the gut. The rest is a balance of carbohydrate and proteins. And they will select carbohydrates and proteins throughout the day for those microorganisms. Now, depending on the temperature of the day, if it's cold weather, they prefer carbohydrates. If it's hot weather, they prefer legumes, et cetera, et cetera. But they are making those adjustments roughly every 6 minutes of the day throughout the day. So it's an extremely complex internal system that these animals have. But if we get our minds off cows eat grass and realize they don't eat grass, they eat microorganisms, then you ask yourself the question, what microorganisms will make our livestock gain the most weight?
Mm-hmm.
It completely changes your ranching.
Yeah, I like that. So is it too simplistic to say that we don't feed the cows, we feed the microbes?
That's exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be making decisions to feed the microbes. And what the microbes require is basically nothing like nearly every cattle nutrition course I've ever looked at covers.
And the same is true for the soil, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Good observation. Thank you for pointing that out, Roger.
So hopefully that helps twist everyone's minds a little bit more.
Yeah, perfect. Tara, did you have a question?
I have a comment instead. I just want to say, Jared, thank you to you and to Selena, both of you, for what you shared during this last hour. We've got my laptop up in the middle of our kitchen at our home, and our kids are here with us. And so it was a blessing to our family that all 5 of us, our kids included, were able to receive that message and have your insight about stewardship and what that means and what that looks like for you. We'll definitely have some ongoing family conversation about that here. And Joshua and I also, we love and very humbly practice a lot of the same things that you've just preached with stewardship. And we want to second or echo your comments about teamwork and finding your who's and getting people on your team that help you achieve that harmony that we all need so that we can all be harmonious in our stewardship of the land. So we identified with so many of the things that you brought up. So I just want to say thank you so much to both you and Selena for sharing your insights from a very honest and real and raw perspective.
Well, thank you, Tara. I appreciate that. So Tara and Joshua are going to be speaking to us during tomorrow's presentation. So I encourage you to jump on. I mean, these guys are the real deal of how a farm ranch team works. And so definitely do not miss that. Appreciate you guys being here and appreciate your contribution to the summit. So any other questions or comments before we wrap up and introduce our next speaker? David Stinnett, I know you were on earlier. Are you in a position where you can unmute? Well, some of us might be multitasking, but he'd asked a question earlier, made a comment in the chat. We'll catch up with him later. No worries. So with that is an overview. I know that was a lot to take in, but that is an overview of what we're going to be doing in the 2-day class. We invite you to join us. If you have questions, you can reach out to Margot or me directly in the chat about what that is and who that's for. But we hope that with what we do, like let me just kind of go off script here a little bit. A friend and mentor of mine, Cam King, who you do have a recording of his interview with me. He was going to be on the summit, and then it didn't work out for timing for him. And so we pre-recorded for him. And the title of that is Why God Wants Ranchers to Be Profitable. So each of you should have access to that recording, and encourage you to go and watch it kind of as a bonus to this. But he made a statement once. He said that hope is not a plan. And I thought about that because there's been a lot of times when I have hoped that things would work out, and when I've had faith that things would work out, and when things looked bleak, I'm just like, I just got to have more faith, and I've got to have more hope. And then at the end of the year, it's kind of a surprise, and we're like, but what happened here? Didn't I have enough faith? Didn't I have enough hope? What's going on? I think that there's a balance that I've considered. Yes, we do have to have hope without works, or faith without works is dead, right? We need to do the work. We need to have the plan, and that's what we're going to lay out in this class. But also, hope is a rare commodity, a commodity that we want to not sell you, but give you. Because if we can give you hope, then you will be able to work that plan. You will be able to find the solutions. It might not be fun. It might not be comfortable. It might be the most challenging, gut-wrenching, hardest thing that you've ever done, which most of the time when things that are worthwhile doing, they are that way. So it does start with hope. And so we encourage you to, in a time when things seem hopeless, like, man, how could we ever succeed when commodity prices have only increased 300%, but yet our expenses have increased however many 1,000%? That hope can be based on, one, there are other people that are doing it in our industry, and we can learn from them. Two, if we're really clear on what our purpose is and what our why is, then we can trust that there will be a way. And then three, I think that we have to trust in something and someone greater than us. And that's the key. That is the key. So with all of this, if ever you feel hopeless, if ever you feel like, man, the cards are stacked against me, if ever you feel like I'm the only one that's going through this challenge, like Selena mentioned, whether it's depression, what I mentioned, foreclosure, letter in the mail, addiction, suicidal thoughts, reach out, because God didn't put us here on an island. Like, there is somebody I can guarantee within your circle of influence that if you reach out, they are there. And in our darkest moments, that's what we have found. It might be a spouse, it might be a family member, it might be a complete stranger. It might be somebody that you don't even really know, but yet they are inspired to reach out. And at the same time, be in a position where you have the resiliency to reach out and help others.